Welcome to the Purpose Podcast. My name is Rachel, and I'm here with my husband, Zac, where your purpose really is our passion. We believe that God has set you apart to win your world, and we're so grateful that you are joining us on whatever platform you've chosen to today. You can find the podcast on all platforms, and if you like it, you can subscribe.
When you like it,
When you like it, you can share it with your friends, and we would love to hear, just as you listen today, to what is encouraging to you or what questions you might have in response. Go ahead and throw those in the comments as well.
Today is going to be super impactful, and a lot of times when we get ready for podcasts and stuff, there's a certain demographic of people that it may not hit as much, like when we do one on parenting or something like that. But today it's going to impact everybody. And so I know I say this every time, hey, as you listen and there's something that impacts you and you know it would impact somebody else, again, just hit that copy link or that share and send it to them. Well, today there's most definitely going to be an opportunity to share this with somebody who is going to be so encouraged, because this week we are talking about healing.
Yeah, super grateful that we have some stories. We have some special guests that are going to join us today and just talk a little bit about what they've experienced. So this isn't all theory. We just wanted to talk through people's real stories.
Yeah, and so when it comes to healing, you've got different sides of people's outlook on it, right? And we're talking about supernatural healing. So we're not trying to hide from that. We're talking about supernatural healing, whether it be physically, spiritually, relationally, whatever that might be. And so Rach and I, just to be super transparent with you, Rachel,
go ahead, say it.
Can, in my opinion, sometimes over spiritualize some things.
Yeah, and how can you be too spiritual?
Well, babe, whenever
what would the Lord say if
you hitting red
right
lights is a spiritual attack because you're 10 minutes late. That being,
I think sometimes the enemy's after me.
yeah, no. That's you're after you. That's self-sabotage. Either way,
sometimes I'm irresponsible.
I say that most get a jab at Rachel. No, but I say that because as we go through our time today, as we hear some of these stories, there will be some times where you have to wrestle with how you feel. Because, there's some things I've prayed for years and years. There's some that Rachel and I are going through our life right now with one of our kids that I was just holding him last night in my arm and just looking at him and just praying, Lord, would you let this not be an issue for him? Mm-hmm. And it doesn't always go exactly how you want it to go. But a verse that we really cling to, and we believe it's big for our life, but also where we pastor at Faith Promise, which is Revelation 12:11, that says, "We overcome the enemy, which is the devil, by the blood of the Lamb, which is Jesus' sacrifice on the cross." I think most believers are pretty unashamed about that, but we overcome the enemy by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. And I feel like how the culture has made faith private is such a lie, such a trick of the enemy to keep that verse powerless because we don't live it out. First of all, a lot of times if you're not sharing your faith, the blood of the Lamb part isn't being covered, but especially the word of your testimony.
Yeah, the gospel. It's your greatest part of your testimony that Jesus rescued you.
Right, and but the word of our testimony. We'll talk to some people who are healed today. So before we invite our first guests and some of our friends, is there anything else you want to add to that around healing or what we're going to talk about today?
No, I think I would just keep your mind open. Sometimes we hear a topic, so if you're still listening, you haven't, shut it off already, that just like you said, sometimes you're like, wow, that is not real, or this didn't really happen for them. And I think it takes a lot of courage to allow the Lord to soften your heart and just to hear what God has done. You may have thought or lived a certain way for, all your life. And all of a sudden this story might seriously reveal to you that God has something more for you, or that maybe you have misjudged God. Maybe there's more to him than you could have imagined, which is the reality of the situation. So just as we share our stories, so Zac and I have experienced healings, just that your heart would be, you just allow your heart to be soft. That's
right. And I think it's important to remember, last thing, I'm going to invite some of our best friends in, is whenever you look at Scripture, and there's 66 books in the Bible, Old New Testament, there's 4 which are called the Gospels, which are Jesus's ministry. And if you wanted to look at like the most pure pour of the culture that Jesus wanted, it's going to be in those 4 Gospels. And you see in those Gospels, Jesus performs signs and wonders. You see Jesus heal people. You see Jesus love people. You see Jesus rebuke people. You see all of those things. But just something I want to point out to you, and sometimes I have to point out to myself, to be totally candid with you, is that when we see Jesus do ministry, we do see healing. Mm-hmm. When we see Jesus do ministry, we see demons cast out. When we see Jesus do ministry, I don't think it always makes all the sense, right? It doesn't fit perfectly in a theology book, right? It's because it's supernatural, it's eternal, it's something beyond to our total comprehension. So again, we'll hop to it because these stories are so powerful. But I just wanted to prime the pump for what you're believing. I wanted to prime the pump for your sharing. I wanted to prime the pump for you to live by the blood of the Lamb and the word of your testimony. So let's take a minute and invite in some of our friends. Okay, so we're here with some of our best friends. Mostly Leah, but also her husband Jason too. No, these are some of Rachel and I's absolute best friends. They pastor out at our Blunt campus, and we love them so much. But as we talked about, as we were kicking off, one of the things that we really hope to be a cornerstone in our walk with God is Revelation 12:11. We overcome the enemy by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. Mm-hmm. And as we're talking about healing, we experienced a pretty miraculous healing together. And so we just wanted to hear some testimonies today. So could you guys walk us through that testimony of healing?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, thank you for asking us. Thanks for having us. So it was December of 2017, and we were at the Farragut campus together at that time. And went to church that morning, and I wasn't feeling great. Wasn't sure what was going on. Went home, still not feeling incredible. Pain in my side, just really, really bad. I guess kind of starting to just set the stage. I have a blood disorder I've dealt with since 2008, and doesn't really cause that many problems, but just something I deal with kind of all the time. And so I was like, gosh, is this anything to do with this? I wasn't sure. Called my doctor. He said, hey, go ahead and go to the ER. So we went to UT and did some CTs, all the tests that they do, during that. And my doctor came in, and the emergency room doctor came in, and he said, hey, got some bad news for you. He said, we found a large mass on your kidney. And I know sometimes it's the pancreas or the lung.
I get my organs mixed up
all the time.
Every time I tell a story, it's a different organ.
Yeah, it's great. I've lost all my organs. You can tell this with you. But so it was on the kidney, on my right kidney, and this large mass, like over a golf ball size mass. And so they rescanned and scanned, and this mass was there. And he said, are you a praying person? And I said, well, yeah, I'm a Jesus follower. I'm a Christian. And he goes, well, we're just going to pray. And this massive man, you remember this?
It's
massive
huge.
man just lays on top of me and just starts crying out to God.
He was crying.
Yeah, he was crying.
Oh, it was
crazy.
crazy.
And so, and he looks at me, he goes, hey, man, we'll figure out the course of action, but your kidney will be in a bucket probably tomorrow.
Yeah.
Have a surgery to take this out.
And they felt like because of his blood condition that it was cancerous, and he said, you're gonna need to get your kids up here. You're gonna need to talk to your kids.
Yeah.
And we were like,
Yeah,
okay.
it's crazy. So
surgery is a big deal because of that blood issue and the medicine that you were on for it.
Yeah, blood thinners and all of that. So that was a big deal. But telling us to get our kids up there, I forgot how crazy that was, right?
Oh,
so
wow.
we did, and we're talking to them, and man, it just kind of overwhelming. It's kind of crazy. I'd had in my quiet time just right before that, the day before, Isaiah 41:13. For I'm the Lord your God who takes hold of your right hand and says to you, do not fear, I will help you. Wow. And I had that just in my mind. I'd actually taken a screenshot, had it on my phone, and I just started just praying that over and over. And just really felt like God speaking to me and us through that. And so we called you not long after that, and you prayed with us on the phone and everything like that. And so we got in a room, and they said they wanted to continue doing tests. And so we saw a doctor, and it was in the middle of the night, but they ordered an MRI. And of course, we had been praying, talking to friends and family, and just trying to really get ourselves to a place of faith. And it's hard when you're in that situation.
The fear was just it was just gripping.
Yeah.
So Why do you think that is? So I think that, I mean, you guys have been in ministry really your whole life. You know, you guys pastor a campus. Why do you think that is? Why do you think it's hard to work up faith, if you like what you said, like get yourself to a place of faith when like we have that faith? But you know what I'm saying? Like, hey, we talked about that people right now, there's people out there struggling with a healing they haven't received or their family hasn't received. So why do you think that was, that you had to work yourself to a place? I've had to, it's not, but I mean, what? I
think it's the doctors were not encouraging.
Yeah.
They didn't have good words to say or anything positive. And from my seat, I was going to be a widow with 3 young kids because he was going to die. And that was really how they laid it out, you know, and it got worse as the night went on. The things they were saying, it just continued to get worse. And so you want your faith to be there, but the medical facts were coming at us hard.
So I think that's so interesting. It's something you guys don't know, Leah. You're not a negative person.
No, not at all.
You know, so like
not to be.
Just like you being a widow or like you raising kids by like that's never your vibe. Like you're not the hypochondriac of the relationship. Right? You know what I'm saying?
No.
And so, you know, you're the ray of sunshine, right? But I just think that's interesting because we talk about the content that we're taking in and how it impacts our outlook. And so I think you just said it without being prompted. Hey, this is what the doctor said. And then what they have to say is fact, and what I think over here about God is faith. You know, and just in our world today, we so elevate this over the fact over faith. That's a great word.
I think we also always want control, right?
That was the other thing I was thinking.
There was no control in that situation, and so. If you know me, I'm already Googling, like, how do you live with one kidney? You know, so what does this look like?
Sure, a lot of positivity on those sites.
Like, who's overcome this cancer and, you know, in one? So like kidney cancer and, you know, how you do this. So just really going down that road, but just zero control, right? And so, like she said, it did kind of get worse. We got into the room, and so they said they were going to do the MRI, and I think it was like 1 or 2 in the morning, something like that. So they put me in the tube, and it really was in that. I hate MRI tubes anyway. Does anybody love MRI tubes?
I've always seen them on movies. It looks terrible.
It's horrible.
They're the
And
worst.
so, but it was in that tube. I had this crazy mix of like just straight up like fear because I'm processing all this. And then at the same time, just God's peace, because that verse, I just kept on thinking this and like, he's got this. And just this overwhelming like peace in that moment. And I like to think like in that tube somewhere, I really feel like I was healed. I'll talk more about that. But we come back to the room and we're just kind of hanging out. And Leah is also not a rule breaker, but she actually couldn't sleep good in the chair. So we got this tiny little hospital bed. She crawls in there and like with me, and we're like we're trying to sleep.
I spent a lot of time there because I thought you were dying.
Yeah.
Thanks.
It's amazing what's coming out.
I needed to be very close. And we cried a lot and we prayed a lot. We didn't sleep very much.
No, but then this younger doctor comes in the middle of the night, and he says, hey, have you had your MRI? I said, yeah. He goes, well, they told you what we're thinking. And I don't think he was supposed to say what he said,
right.
and never saw him again. But he said, hey, we're thinking because of your blood condition, and this is in your kidney, it's connected to your renal system. Our thought is that this has most likely spread, not just through your kidney, but most likely all through your body up into your organs. And we're just really hoping it's not like fully in your lungs and your even into your heart.
Yeah.
And like, I didn't even know that was a thing. Right. So you talk about like terrified, we go from like, 0 to 60, like super quick. And he walks out and we're just laying there just kind of devastated, and go from like, hey, I might lose a kidney to like, hey, this might be like it. And what does this look like? He said, most likely we'll get that MRI result. And
it was like 3 a.m.
3 a.m. at that point.
All of our friends are in bed.
And we'll get that, and we'll make a plan of action like for surgery. Probably send you home for Christmas, and then you come back and have the surgeries afterwards. So that was pretty devastating. Mm-hmm. That next morning, you guys came up, you and Rachel, some other friends of ours from Blunt campus.
I remember looking around the room, and the people that were there were, just some very important people in our life. And but hey, before anybody leaves.
One of my pastors growing up. And so we just all prayed. And I know you remember that moment, but I just have never experienced the presence of God like I had experienced in that room. And so it was crazy. You know, we prayed and prayed. I think I squeezed your hand to death. I'm sorry. But it was just a special time. And I knew in that moment, like, hey, we're going to be okay.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen, but we're going to be okay. And so you guys left. Some others left, and the last couple was still there that had prayed with us. And the two main heads of urology walk in from UT and had walked into the room, and like you just had this sense like this is where you find out you know what's going to go on, and so Leah's mom is still in there, we're in there, and he said, Mr. Hines, I've got some news for you, and about your test, and I said, okay, so you're just bracing yourself, and he says, he said, hey, we got the test back and we really just don't understand these results because you'd had multiple scans. He said, but that mass that was there is not there anymore. Yeah. And he said, I really don't know how to explain this. And I don't
Jason
remember.
Jason jumped out of the bed. He had IVs in both arms, and I was like, oh! You know, like he just leapt out of the bed, and
that's not Jason either. No. Jump out of the hospital bed. Yeah.
But go hug these guys, and like I just you're so taken back, but you're like I remember I said I don't understand this.
He said you don't understand. We just prayed for a miracle.
Yeah.
And the doctor looked at me, and it just crazy, like it's like a movie script. He goes, well, son, you just got your miracle. And so it was crazy. So we kept on asking questions and stuff like that. And he said, hey, I don't have all these answers. Let me go get the test. So the two guys left. They came back. We just instantly prayed and just like thanking Jesus for that healing, and just amazing. They come back in the room. We're not even trying to compose yourself, right? You're just like, it was crazy because we're shouting. And he comes back in and he says, hey, you know, here's the test. Here's what they said. And I said, hey, I'm having trouble wrapping my head around this. Are you sure?
Yeah.
Are you sure this is right? And he said, I said, because it just doesn't make sense. And I said, the guy came in the middle of the night and it sounded like a death sentence. And again, another movie like script. Yeah. He said, well, sir, your death sentence just got revoked.
Yeah.
And just crazy. And they thought it was miraculous. Yeah. They had not experienced anything.
It was so cool from that point on. Every doctor referred to it as a miracle. And so like if you go back to what I said, like I was losing my faith based on these facts. Yeah. And then the only thing the doctors have to say is it's a miracle.
Wow.
It was amazing. Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
So cool. It's so cool to be a part of. And so we have always tried to tell that as a part of our testimony. And with that blood condition that I have, I mean, I still am believing for complete healing for that. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like we're in this interesting space where we've experienced healing, we've experienced deliverance. That's something that so many people never get to experience, but we're still walking in this place where we're believing for more. And we walk in that every day. And we've seen so many amazing things. God is so good, and it really strengthened our faith so much. It really gave me the faith that, hey, I can step out and do what God's called me to do for ministry, because whatever he tells me to do, I'm going to do. And he's got me, you know, he holds my right hand.
That's right.
And I don't have to be afraid.
So good.
Yeah. Okay. We'll be a little over time, but
sorry.
I want to bring something else up. So it'll be on me, but because you mentioned, you know, the blood disorder, still praying, asking God to move on that. Yeah. I think everybody has things, that we're praying that God will do. Like I have friends that aren't saved. Mm-hmm. Same thing with you guys, you know, some of those things. But I remember a moment in our life where God did move, where we wish that he did. It's your business, but I'll share it. But just so we talk about this for a moment, because I think what's important is the moment I'm about to share was devastating, but this moment still happened after, you know, whenever your dad passed away. Yeah. How old was Ken?
Late 60s.
You know, I mean, and was fine.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I wasn't long when I saw him. He threatened to rip my earrings out, you know, and you know, had that massive heart attack. And I remember, you know, I mean, we didn't leave the hospital much. Yeah. You know, I know y'all never did, but we didn't leave the hospital much. And I feel like everything that God wanted to be done was done. You know, like you guys were kind to everybody. I remember your mom, even though she's not totally healthy, went and got all of his Gideon Bibles that he had left, passing them out, you know, to people. And I still remember I have a video. I don't know if you have it. But whenever they came in and told us that, Ken had passed away, and I think your mom collapsed a little bit, and then you get down there and you're holding her, and then y'all just start singing, and what is just a really special moment. But we prayed the same. Like, I don't think that we prayed anything better when we were praying for your dad than when we were praying for you. But I was just really struck whenever you were listening, because I love you guys in general, but the healing you experienced. I think a lot of people never experience that point B, because that A moment so robs them of it. Makes the fact like the facts are what matter and the faith matters none. How can you keep a faith of believing for the miraculous whenever you haven't seen it when you hope for it? I know I didn't prepare you guys for this question, but I feel like that's where a lot of people are.
Yeah, and you jump in after this. I mean, I just trust God so much, and I think it's been through experience. And I trust Him that He's in control, and He's sovereign. And if it's something that He is letting into my life, it's for a purpose, and it is for my good. I believe He does work, Romans 8:28, all things together for good, according to for the good of those who are called according to His purpose. So I know He does that, and I've lived it, and we just trust Him. It's like, if He's letting us in, it's for His glory, and it's for my good. And I try to keep that in perspective. Now, that doesn't mean you have that bad news and you don't try to figure it out or try to control or try to fix what you can. But at the end of the day, Zach, I mean, we try to live our life that way, where He's in control no matter what happens.
And I think about that song, we sing the same God. No matter what our day looks like, He's the same God no matter what you face or what the news is. He's the same.
Yeah.
And we have to remind ourselves of that.
Yeah. You want to sing some of that for us?
No, not right now.
No, not right now. Later. Next time. We did just celebrate Easter, and I think it's for most, it seems so ironic. It's Good Friday. Yeah. That's the day He died. You would think, if anything, it'd be Good Sunday. Yeah. Whenever He rose, but it was Good Friday, because there's not anything that's good that we have now that is not made available because of that.
That's right.
And you always think about that thief on the cross, how good it was, what a good day it was for him. But I just leading to what you said, Romans 8:28. It's all leading to His good. So He's got that plan. So thank you guys so much. So grateful for you guys sharing this with us. Y'all are amazing. We love you guys so much. And so we're actually going to jump to Rachel, who's with Miss Deanna, to hear another amazing testimony of God moving.
I love Jason and Leah's story, not just because of what they experienced, which is great, but they still continue to trust God in the waiting as they await more healing. And they are so honest about the hard things of following Jesus, but the incredible joy of salvation. It is just so good. And I'm really excited that I've got my dear friend, Deanna, with me, and we're going to just talk a little bit about her story and her testimony of what she's experienced. So Deanna, why don't you tell us a little bit about your experience of healing? Why don't you give us a little bit of background first?
Yes. So it started when I lived in Atlanta, and I fractured 18 ribs with a sneeze.
That's intense.
That's intense. And basically what it did is it caused my brain to fire pain, and I ended up with fibromyalgia. And so for 15 years, I had suffered a very severe case of fibromyalgia where clothes hurt, sheets hurt, hugs hurt. I was just in a lot of pain all the time.
Hey, what was it like when you, because you continued to follow Jesus
Yes.
throughout that season, what would you say is one thing, like, while you were doing that, you're just like, this is what allowed for me to continue to stay faithful to the Lord?
Well, it was difficult at times because I begged to be healed. I tried to be a better Christian at times, and of course that is not how God works. But I decided that praising Him and being close to Him and leaning into Him was the best thing I could do for me. And if this was just how it was going to be, the best way for my health was to be as close to Him as I could be and continue to live my life in ministry and minister to others, that you can live a life like that and still be in ministry and still love God and praise God and love Him and be happy and be joyful.
Yeah, that's so good. So you have this intense sneeze, and then 15 years later, what happened?
15 years later, I'm sitting at Faith Promise at the Global Leadership Conference. And I had been in those very uncomfortable chairs for 2 days. And quite frankly, the second day, I almost wasn't going to attend because I had hurt so badly. But I went, and this woman from Africa was giving her testimony and speaking, and she was talking about the Rwanda experience, the thing that had happened between the Rwanda and the Tutsi tribes and the genocide that had taken place. She was talking about forgiveness and how she had struggled to forgive the tribe, the genocide that had taken place, and that those that had killed the family members in her tribe. And that the process that it took for her to be able to then forgive her. And she actually had taken a part of the Lord's Prayer out of the Lord's Prayer about forgive me my sins as I forgive others, because she could not do that. And then eventually she met another woman who had been part of the other tribe, and she said that she realized that that woman was just as upset about what had happened as she was. And in those conversations, she learned to forgive her.
Wow.
And so she challenged us in the audience at the conference to ask God, who was it that we needed to forgive?
And that's really challenging, because I would say today you could ask that question and be like, ooh, I don't always feel very comfortable being asked those kinds of questions.
Exactly. And so I bowed my head and I asked God, well, Lord, who do I need to forgive? And He said, your mom. And I had a very tumultuous relationship with my mother growing up. And I said, no, God, you're wrong. I forgave my mother a long time ago. It's never good to argue with God, but I did. And God said, no, Deanna, you did not. Which kind of surprised me, but I said, okay, then God, I forgive her. And I cried and I forgave her. And in that split second, God supernaturally healed me of that fibromyalgia. I had zero pain, and I was shocked. I've been healed before supernaturally, but when you have pain and have lived for 15 years, from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet, every nerve on your body hurts, and suddenly it's gone. I didn't know what to do with that.
Wow. Yeah, because I remember right after, so we're at church. This is a simulcasted event. Like, it's not like there's these live speakers in the room. We're watching this screen. There's a couple hundred people all there just to grow in their leadership skills. And you found me afterwards, and this crazy thing just happened. I don't hurt anymore. And, it's always, which we have a healing weekend coming up. And so if you can participate online or in person at any of our campuses. And it's always an incredible experience to have time set aside where you can go and have hands laid on you, where you can bring that, and be prayed over. But it's incredible that it just affirms, one, you don't have to be in the room. So if you are online, participating online at church or whatever, like God can heal you anywhere.
That's right.
But it wasn't even a special healing moment.
That's right.
It was
a leadership conference.
It was a leadership conference. And so what did it for you? That has to be super, you have to wrestle and reconcile with this. Hey, well, for 15 years I served you. And then I did this. And now I experienced that. And for some of us listening, and for me, even I wrestle, I'm a performance, junkie. I want to perform really well because if I do really good, then you'll love me more, right? I'm still growing too.
Right.
And it's really hard sometimes to wrestle with that dichotomy. Hey, well, because you said I tried to be a better Christian.
Yep.
That didn't give me healing. That's not how God works. So if, would you just talk for just a second about how did you reconcile that?
Well, once I got over what had actually happened and quite frankly talked through it with some people, you come to realize it had nothing to do with that I forgave my mother. Mm-hmm. I think he used that as a way for me to get closer to him and really obtain everything he had for me. Mm-hmm. So in order for me to so to speak, get to that next level with him and experience that, it became a stepping stone for me to talk to others about how do you experience everything he has for you.
Yeah, that's so good. God doesn't heal us just because we do the right thing.
That's right.
He doesn't want us to come after him for the healing.
Right.
He wants us to come after the healer.
Right.
And I love that when you forgave your mom, what that physical healing was for you. And I think we see this in the Gospels as well. When Jesus heals, it wasn't about the healing. It was about the moment after the healing.
Right.
So for you, it was, hey, I have so much more intimacy. I have more sanctification.
Yes.
I have more gifts
Yes.
for you to walk in. And you've experienced more healing since that experience.
I have.
And you have some healing we, continue to wait on. And so just if you were going to say, hey, this was just knowing who God is and trusting him, if you're like, hey, I know that God is who he says he is, even in that 15 years, what would you say if somebody, let's say, the scriptures, Paul talks about how he walked with that thorn in his side, and nobody knows exactly what it is. There's all kinds of speculation, but we can speculate all day. He doesn't detail it.
Right.
And so, hey, you had come to this place where you said, hey, I'm cool if this is the thorn in my side. Right.
Yep.
So how did you reconcile that part of your walk with Christ? Because I think for some of us, we're going to experience healing. I think a lot of people are going to get healed this coming weekend at Faith Promise and online. I believe just as we're listening to this podcast, there are people who are going to ask God, right now, why don't you just ask God? We're just going to take a second. Let's just be really weird and crazy. And just ask the Lord right now, if there's something you need physical healing for, put your hand on your body where you need it and just say right now, Lord, I'm asking you to heal this in Jesus' name. By the power of the Holy Spirit and the blood of the Lamb, I just receive healing for this. And there's people who right now, I believe they were healed. So not being able to understand any of it,
right?
Because we're people. How did you reconcile that moment? What was that moment like for you where you said, if this is the thorn in my side and I walk with this forever, I'm still going to love you and I'm going to serve you?
Well, for me, it was looking at what Jesus went through for us. That was an incredible sacrifice. And the Bible doesn't say that being a Christian is going to be easy.
Yeah.
And that we're all going to suffer, right? So if that was the thorn in my side for him, then that was okay. If that was what I was going to have and I could still serve him and I could still love him and I could still serve others for him, then that was okay.
It's so good. It's so beautiful. I'm so grateful you shared your story with us today, Deanna. It's so good. And,
Thank you.
I'm really excited to watch how God continues to use you.
Thank you.
We are so grateful that people are willing to really be vulnerable and share their stories. These stories are personal and they have made them very public.
Yeah.
Not just here on the podcast, but they have shared their testimonies with friends and family on social media to see to really see God glorified. And I'm really grateful that there are people who are living by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony. And you could hear, and they even mentioned it, what it meant for them to share their story, what it does for them as they wait for what they're waiting on God for now.
Yeah. And so we want to encourage you. I'm sure as you listened to it, maybe you cried, maybe you got goosebumps, maybe you were, I don't know. I'm sure that there was the full gamut of emotions as you were listening and watching those stories. But I just want to encourage you to press in for the healing that you're asking God to work right now, whether it's in your family or in the lives of somebody in your family or a friend or something like that, that you would press in, that you would pray, that you would believe. And I'm so burdened that we wouldn't let our walk with God, I'm so burdened that we wouldn't let our outlook on Christianity and all the things as it pertains to Jesus, I'm so burdened that we don't let that be commandeered and structured and overshadowed by how culture says it should be, it could be. You know, again, it's just hard to hear somebody say that Christianity is the same as everything else, and that it's a fairy tale and all these kind of things, and not let that rob your outlook on it. Not let it again, and it just depends on what generation you are. But there's a talking head that I would say talks to every generation that says that Christianity and walk with God, like the supernatural, is silly. And we can't ignore that. If you're ingesting that content, if that is a part of your life, you can't ignore that, like it doesn't impact you and how you view it. And so what if we're not careful when it comes to you are, before you're anything else, you are a supernatural being. You are a son or a daughter of the Most High. If you believe that when you die, you're going to go to heaven or hell for eternity, then I would so encourage you to live this, 60, 80, 100 years that you get on this earth for a supernatural purpose, and healing and signs and wonders and the gospel it's such a massive part of that.
Well, in healing, just the topic requires great humility. We do not, God's ways are not our ways, and to be arrogant and prideful that we could understand all about it and fully conceptualize how God operates, that's just, it will steal from us what really, we have to approach all of that with humility. And sometimes if you haven't experienced your healing yet, you might have listened today and been angry or hurt. God, I don't know why you wouldn't heal me. Just like when we were praying over our kid, God, we don't know why you haven't healed him of this. And instead of getting mad at God, I can choose to try and operate out of my own understanding, which is flawed and sinful and broken, or I can choose to trust God in his perfection. So as you wrestle with the thought of and the topic of healing and what God can do and who he is, remind yourself what the word says about God, that he's holy, which means he's perfect. That means everything that he does, we can trust it because it's not literally, it is a way outside of us.
Yeah, and whenever you're thinking about if you haven't gotten healing that you're praying for or whatever, just two little things that we think about. One of them we got from Bethel Church, and whenever they talk about prayer for something like this, they call it push, P-U-S-H, pray until something happens, push. And so, which again, his ways are not our ways, his thoughts are not our thoughts, and so however much we have to pray and ask for something or walk through something, again, he knows what's best, right? But excuse me, I would also say in James 5, 16 and 17, it says if you're sick, come before, the people of the church, the elders of the church, and let them pray for you, so that you might be healed. And so one part of that is we go to God, and I think this is something that we so miss. We go to God for forgiveness, and we go to each other for healing. That's biblical. James 5. Look it up. James 5. So we go to God for forgiveness. No one else can forgive your sins, but we can receive healing by being prayed for other people.
There's power in confession.
Yeah, but we get so we don't want to be too prideful and pray, like my prayers could heal somebody. Well, biblically, that's just not true. The prayer of a righteous one, which is verse 16 of James 5, the prayer of a righteous person is powerful and effective. And so again, going back to, hey, there's something I'm asking God to do. Like, are we allowing people to come in? Are you willing to go up every week that you go to church? Are you willing to go up every week and have somebody pray for you? Or do you have that humility to go up every week and say, will you pray? Will you hold my hand? Will you pray with me? Will you pray over me? Do we have that kind of humility, or are we frustrated because it hasn't happened in our time, in our way? Again, that's not easy, but these are just some scriptures that help me whenever I get a little frustrated with God's timing.
Well, and Jesus talks about a woman who bangs on the judge's door. She's begging for justice. She's asking for something, and she goes every stinking day.
Calls her a nag.
Yeah, you wouldn't know what that's like.
I wouldn't know what that's like. I've read about it.
And she does. She beats on that guy's door every day, asking for justice, asking for this. And Jesus says, hey, this is how I want you to pursue me. Not just like the thing you need, but really ultimately the greatest thing you need Jesus. You need the Holy Spirit. You need sanctification. And God will align your will and desires with his will and desire, and give you grace for what he's asked you to walk in right now.
Yeah.
And so you can bang on that door every single day. And as you go to the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, you can trust he's going to meet you right there. And he may not give you what you want, but he's going to definitely give you what you need, which is the Holy Spirit. So we're really grateful that we got to share these stories with you today, and we hope that you are encouraged. And if we, I really hope that we would be people who would live by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. So we hope you have an amazing, purpose-filled week, and we'll see you back here next time.